I think it's time to blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Okay, look, before you say anything, I know, calling Arlong a tragic figure may be a bit of a stretch, but just hear me out. When I say tragic figure, I don't mean it in the modern sense. I do mean it in the Greek sense. The tragic Greek hero is a staple of literature. The type of character that Aristotle would define as an intermediate kind of personage, not preeminently virtuous and just, whose misfortune is attributed not to a vice or depravity, but an error of judgment. Now you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with Arlong? Arlong the villain, the man who attacked Kokuyashi village and enslaved Nami. Well, here's the thing, I do think that on some level, there is a correlation here. Obviously, it is not a one-to-one correlation, but still. The area of deviation is obviously the hero part. By no stretch of the imagination is Arlong a hero. Even so, I still think the moniker of tragic still applies to his character on some level. And in this video, I'd like to explore that in more detail. To begin, let's make a quick look back on Arlong's life. When we first meet Arlong in the story, Ichiro Oda does his best to make sure that Arlong is the most despicable villain we've seen so far. As I've said before, he attacks Kokuyashi village ruthlessly and indiscriminately. Additionally, he steals money directly from the villagers, and he forces Nami to work for him at a very young age. But one aspect about his character that always baffled me was his blatant supremacist beliefs. When he fights Luffy, he makes remarks implying that fishmen are inherently superior than humans. On top of all that, Arlong has a weird disposition over money. He's obsessed over it. He can't stop trying to collect more money. Hell, I still believe that's the main reason why he came to Kokuyashi village. Firstly, because yes, there was no one there to actually defy him, but secondly, because he knew he could use them to make even more money. When he was making a deal with Nezumi, the literal rat marine, he's quoted in saying, "Money is good. It's the only thing a man can really believe in." And yes, almost everyone else in the One Piece world is obsessed with money. I mean, look at Nami, she's also obsessed, but her obsession never pushed her to do something inherently immoral or unethical. She'd always steal from other pirates or other marines. And I would argue that Nami's obsession with money is more than anything a lingering mental scar left by the experience of working with Arlong. And then Luffy just beats him. The Straw Hats liberate Kokuyashi village and we assume Arlong is arrested. We then proceed to never talk about him for several hundred chapters or episodes. And then Fishman Island happens. We then get a surprising amount of his character fleshed out. Fishman Island as an arc is a paradox for me. On one hand, I think it's probably the worst arc in One Piece. But on the other, I think it's probably the most thematically rich and interesting arc ever made. In the previous arcs, it was alluded that the fishmen have been abused and exploited by the world government. But in this arc, we see that in full display. So I actually hope to make a video on the fishmen in the future, so I'll keep it very brief here. The fishmen have had to endure enslavement on a larger scale compared to the other races of One Piece for a very long time, to the point where many fear for their lives if they have to go to the surface. And this experience has clearly affected Arlong. But I would argue the most defining moment of his life was when he was part of the Sun Pirates. Specific moments, such as Fisher Tiger refusing to accept human blood, even though it could save his life, or Koala being attacked for simply being associated with fishmen. These moments didn't just deeply affect him, it also greatly radicalized him to the world. These moments fast-tracked his mindset into one of pure hostility between fishmen and humans. Okay, now that we've established this, I want to ask a very simple and potentially obvious question. What makes Arlong a villain? Compare contrast Arlong with Jinbei, for example. What makes Arlong a villain but makes Jinbei a good person? And I believe the answer to this question can be found in his fatal flaw. Like I said before, any tragic character, whether he be a hero or a villain, possesses a fatal flaw, one which usually leads to their own downfall. And I believe Arlong's fatal flaw is his hypocrisy. One thing which always perplexed me about Arlong's character is that in retrospect, his actions make less sense. As a victim of subjugation and exploitation, he knows intimately what that feels like. And yet, he feels no remorse in making others feel that exact same treatment. The world government enslaves fishmen and use their forced labor to make themselves even more rich, while they push narratives that humans are genetically superior to fishmen. And Arlong does the exact same thing. He enslaves the people of Kokoyashi village, takes their labor, and then keeps talking about fishman superiority. This mindset was most definitely birthed on his time with the Sun Pirates. After seeing the threat that the world government posed to not just his friends, but his whole people, he came to the conclusion that the only way to fight back is to do the same. Fight fire with fire. This mindset isn't just wrong, it's antithetical to everything Fisher Tiger believed in. Fisher Tiger also believed in fighting oppression, sure, but his tactics usually focused on fighting the actual oppressors, the world government. And I think the reason why he did this is because he understood a basic fact about the world he lived in. The struggle for freedom is one that almost everyone feels, fishmen or not. If a true revolution were to actually occur, it has to be fought beyond just the fishmen. But Arlong didn't understand this. His view was too narrow, and more importantly, his rage was too strong. It stopped him from seeing other oppressed humans as allies. And due to his experience, all he could see were enemies. That's why Arlong's life was so tragic, and in the end, that's what led to his downfall. Because when we eventually reach the final saga of One Piece and the true revolution begins, his ideology will have no place in it. Thanks for watching.